weekend, Christoph, where players are off to the African Cup of
I,
Nations as
it
well.
feels strongly of a draw to me. The way Wolves are playing, I can't see them even winning a game this season. To be honest, no,
Oh no,
no. We're
the
just saying.
Newcastle fans don't want to hear that. Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be looking ahead, previewing the big matches coming up on the weekend over there in the EPL. Newcastle takes on Chelsea. And then there's also another big one. Tottenham plays host to Liverpool. Now, joining me this evening to preview these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returning to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christoph. Another weekend filled with action. This is the first weekend, Christoph, where players are off to the African Cup of Nations as well. And we also know that during this festive period, there's a number of games in close proximity to each other. So I would say this weekend really kicks off the fixtures of festivity, if one would want to look at it from that point of view. The Christmas fixtures, so to speak, a period of time where management style is really tested, squad depth comes into play, and of course, player fatigue is also an issue. But we have a number of interesting games coming up on the weekend, Christoph. The first of which, Newcastle plays host to Chelsea. So Newcastle at home versus a Chelsea team which got a win over there in the Carabao Cup as well. Talk to us about this game, Christoph. How do you see this one going? And what are your general thoughts on this fixture?
Potentially a tricky fixture for both teams because we know Newcastle does play well and they can rise to the occasion. I'm wondering now, Newcastle did play in the Caballero Cup, I think on Tuesday. They won 2-1. I'm wondering if we will see that being kind of translated to the weekend. If we treat that like a Champions League game.
Oh no.
No,
Oh no.
no. We're
The
just saying.
Newcastle fans don't want to hear that.
If we treat it like it was a Champions League game for a minute and going off the trend that we're seeing, then we would assume Newcastle to drop points in this game.
Oh no. Well, this one, Newcastle
Is
is
home.
actually at home,
Right, it's at
right?
home. So I'm just
If they were
wondering.
away, then you could have placed your house
I
title
I
on the
think
fact
they're
that Newcastle would drop points. But
I
this
think
time it's at
their
home,
I think their Caballero Cup match two was also at home against Fulham, right?
right? That's correct. They
So
did
it's
win that one. They won
2-1.
that game 2-1, right?
Right. So
For me,
oh,
though, I'm leaning towards a Newcastle win, Christoph. I've
yeah,
seen Newcastle play big teams at home. And whenever they play big teams at home, they find an extra gear. They find an extra shift. They rise to the occasion. And this being the first fixture in the festive period, I expect a raucous Newcastle crowd coming at the Chelsea players. And I think that will translate over to the Newcastle players as well, Christoph. So for me, straight off the bat, I am giving this one to Newcastle. I think Newcastle is going to come and they're going to come very hard at this Chelsea team, which is, I would say, lacking in confidence at the moment. Did get a win last time out, but before that, they had gone 5 games without a win. So I think if Newcastle can get on top of them from early in this game, it will be game, set, match, probably even before halftime. What says you? How are you reading this one though?
I don't know if game set much before halftime, but I feel like it is definitely a Newcastle win. I think it's probably 2-1 or 2-0 to Newcastle. Especially because I think Voltemade is just so hard to kind of lock down for teams, and I'm not 100% convinced about the Chelsea defense, to be honest. All right, and we do know that Chelsea is somewhat vulnerable against set pieces, so.
Well,
I
again, the formula should be pretty simple for Newcastle. Stop Cole Palmer, Christoph. You neuter Chelsea. He
right.
is one of the key pegs. I mean, you know he can beat you. So lock him down, force someone else to come up with the goods. And I fear that Chelsea doesn't have anyone that can really come up with the goods if Cole Palmer is nullified by this Newcastle defense. So for that reason, I am definitely leaning towards a Newcastle win. And of course, Newcastle need the points as well. Newcastle definitely need the points. So the players should be motivated also. And the midweek fixture should act as a catalyst to boost their confidence going into this game as well. So my money is definitely on Newcastle to take that Chelsea scalp. But from a tactical point of view, though, Christoph, looking at it tactically, what's the approach you think a team like Chelsea should take versus this Newcastle team if they were indeed to go to Newcastle and get a result?
I think Newcastle is likely to press them high and apply a lot of pressure in specifically in the early minutes. I think Chelsea should probably look to counter attack in this one, especially because Cole Palmer is devastating on the counter attack. 1v1 he rarely misses. So I think that's the approach Chelsea should take and potentially get some early goals if they want to win. But I feel like Newcastle and Eddie Howe tend to play these games tactically well. When they play Arsenal, you see them isolate like Asaka. When they play Man City, they try to isolate Erling Haaland and so on. So I think they'll definitely have a plan for Cole Palmer and they'll isolate him and try to stop whatever service and he's going to get. So, um, Chelsea or Mariska might need to come up with some plan, or some other player will need to come good in this game for Chelsea. Because
Yeah,
as
for sure, definitely. Another player has to step up. Joe Pedro. I mean, Joe Pedro was bought for this very reason, and of course, the wingers, the Garnachos, the Gittins. Uh, those players. Neto, he has definitely disappointed since his move from Wolves. I thought he would have been more prolific in terms of end product, goals, assists, creating havoc down that flank. But that is indeed not the case. Enzo Fernandez as well, Christoph. He was a big money signing, a World Cup winner. And I personally don't think he has lived up to expectation in terms of finding that final product. Chelsea just has failed to elevate their game. They've maintained uh, a decent position in the league since these big money signings, but never have they really threatened Christoph to say make a title run after all this spending. They have not threatened that title push. So again, they'll probably have to dip into the transfer market come January, come the summer, in order to try to elevate this team to the next level. But failing to flatter, in my opinion, this season and previous. And I think this is a prime opportunity for Newcastle to really put a nail in that Chelsea coffin. And I am definitely backing them to do so, especially as I said, the start of this festive period where fans should be in a jubilant mood and just pushing their team forward. And again, as I said, I'm using history. I'm going off history here. I've seen Newcastle play Barcelona at home. I've seen Newcastle play Liverpool at home, Arsenal at home, Man City at home. And every time they play these big teams, they find another gear. They don't always get the result, mind you, but they play totally better football. It's a different Newcastle team you're looking at whenever they face these big teams at home. And I think this would be another case. Just the name Chelsea exude you to push yourself forward. They are a traditional big four team, probably not now, but traditionally, when there was an established hierarchy in the Premier League, Chelsea was among that group. So that history I've carried over. So, Newcastle should be coming full force. But in terms of a scoreline, Christoph, let's not beat around the bushes
no,
anymore. In
I did
terms of a
say 2-0.
scoreline, what says you?
I did say 2-1, 2-0 to Newcastle.
2-1, 2-0. Interesting call there. I'm gonna go a tad bit further. I'm gonna go 3-1 to Newcastle. 3-1 win for Newcastle over Chelsea. Now, the next main featured game, I would say, of this weekend, Christoph, is there are a couple of games, let me say, that are very interesting. So, for example, Aston Villa versus Manchester United is a very interesting game. But before we go there, let's take a quick look at Spurs versus Liverpool. Spurs versus Liverpool. Uh, Salah-less Liverpool, as has been the case for a number of games now. So by now the squad should be used to that. But now I'm hearing also that Soberslai is now out with an injury, and he has been one of the better players for Liverpool. So with those missing pieces, Christoph, what says you in this one? Spurs at home versus Liverpool.
All right. In my opinion, uh, Spurs has played. People who say Spurs has played good so far this season, but I don't think they've been that good. They've been spotty. So I think Spurs should win this game, but Spurs has uh, oftentimes what we call they are very Spursy, right? This
Well,
is
what does that mean, though? Explain that for our viewers and subscribers. What does Spursy mean? Some of our viewers and subscribers may not be familiar with the rich history of Spurs, Christoph, in terms of the title Spursy. Talk to us. What does that actually translate to in terms of meaning?
what you would say is games that you would expect Tottenham to win, whether it be comfortably or even difficult to read. Spurs has a tendency to kind of shoot themselves in the foot, underperform in these games, and then lose somewhat poorly. So they're Spursy. Uh,
I see. So
the
you're
game,
saying, so in the context of this game now,
I'm
Spurs versus Liverpool,
I'm
while you
expecting.
expect Spurs to win, you're
I
saying the characteristic of being Spursy may just come into play.
I expect them to put on a somewhat Spursy performance in this game. I think they should be winning this game. I don't think Liverpool is has quite turned the corner fully, so to speak. I think with I mean, we saw where the absence of Salah somewhat improved them, but we don't know if that was a one-off or not, right? We do know, however, that the absence of Szoboszlai will definitely hurt Liverpool in this game. So I think Spurs, if they're smart, they would take advantage of attacking that right-hand side of Liverpool to kind of get the goals. A lot of the goals that Liverpool have conceded last season, season before, and this season have come from that right-hand side. Right. So if Spurs are intelligent, if they're good, they will attack that right hand side and get the goals and win this game. But like I said, I have a strong feeling Spurs will be Spursy and this game will end up in a draw. I think this game will
It
end up in a draw.
draw. Okay, so draw is your final call for this one.
Right.
For sure. I mean, as you rightfully say, Liverpool hasn't been the Liverpool of all this season. Salah out, I think the team did improve under Salah. In fact, I don't think the team has
Without
lost
Salah,
a
I
game.
mean.
Right, without Salah. I don't think the team has lost a game when Salah hasn't been in the starting 11 this season, in all honesty. But again, the engine of that team, one of the main players that has been carrying that Liverpool team has been Soberslai. So he is going to be a huge miss for this team. But that being said, I feel Liverpool have enough quality in depth in that midfield because now with Soberslai possibly out, you're looking at a midfield of Gravin Birch, McAllister, and Jones. Jones is a very underrated midfielder, but I think whenever Jones plays, Liverpool looks better, in all honesty. He's not a big name player, but he does keep the ball ticking over. In fact, he is one of the few Liverpool midfielders who can actually carry the ball and beat a player or two with his dribble, to be honest, Christoph. Most of the other Liverpool midfielders are technical players, touch players who pass and move. But Jones is one of those players who has a good dribble on him, where he can beat a player with a dribble and open up space, draw defenders out of position. So it would not surprise me if Jones became the talisman in that Liverpool midfield going forward with Soberslai out now. Of course, defensively, Liverpool has been weak all season. Of late, maybe the last two, 3 games, they have looked somewhat better defensively again with the absence of Salah. But that right side, as you mentioned, is still an area of potential weakness. In fact, at this particular moment, I am not even sure who will be playing right back for Liverpool. It could be a left back playing right back, in all honesty, because all the
Robertson.
right backs are out injured. So besides out, who is a makeshift right back,
I think
Pring who was bought to
you,
replace Trent, is out,
you
and
probably put that
Gomez is injured, and Bradley's injured.
you put that a midfielder or another centre back there.
But who? That is the question. Who? There's no other centre back. Liverpool is down to bare bones when it comes to centre back. If Van Dijk or Eva Kanate was to go down injured, you might have to be playing Gravenberch at centre back and find some other makeshift midfielder. So this Liverpool team is in
Then
tatters if they
maybe
pick up another injury.
maybe Gravenberch will find himself a right back on the weekend.
Your guess is as good as
I
mine, but
believe I
definitely
think
has
we
that
did
become a
see it.
problematic area.
I think we have seen that before. Under Klopp, I think I've seen Klopp
Mm.
play Gravenberch at right back.
I'm not sure. This one I'm gonna have to wait and see. But with all of that said, I feel Liverpool will come with a workmanlike performance and outwork this Spurs team. So for that reason, I am gonna give a slight edge to Liverpool, and I'm gonna call this one 2-1 in favor of Liverpool, Christoph. So, Eketeke has been one of the bright spots for Liverpool thus far. He has been able to find the back of the net with a level of consistency thus far this season. Verts still creating chances, but nothing to write home about. So he should get another start in this one. Maybe he will be able to come good in this game. But I just think the sort of form that Spurs have been displaying, the Liverpool resurgence, I'm just going to give Liverpool the slight edge. If Liverpool was at home, this would have been a very easy call. It would have been a Liverpool win. But the fact that they're playing away from home, and we know the statistics that 70% of home matches are matches at home are won by the home team, that does throw a little spanner into the works. So I imagine this will be a very tight game, but I feel Liverpool may come away with a 2-1 win. So officially, 2-1 win for Liverpool is my call. So you're calling a draw, but in terms of a score though, Christoph, what's the score? Is it 0-0, 1-1,
2-2,
2-2?
2-2.
2-2. So you're expecting a high scoring game then?
Yes,
Mm. All right. That being said, we move. And the next big game, as mentioned earlier, is Aston Villa versus Manchester United, Christoph. That game takes center stage on Sunday. Aston Villa at home versus Manchester United. This should be a mouth-watering fixture, especially for the neutrals. But what is your analysis of this game, and who do you think will come away winners?
I think Aston Villa should come away winners in this one. I think Unai Emery has probably analyzed Amarin's game plan and already has countermeasures for it. He is a manager who does de deploy counters to specific teams and such. I think that is what will happen in this game. Um, we've seen, especially last week, we've seen where the three at the back is very vulnerable. Um, I guess for United in this instance, because I mean you're playing three centre backs, you should be more defensively sound. But somehow Liverpool, not Liverpool, United have shipped 4 goals and have been shipping a lot of goals in recent weeks. They seem to have found the key to scoring goals. They struggled with scoring goals at the beginning of the season. They found the goals, but now they're conceding way too many. So
Yeah, just a
I,
quick stats. They've conceded 26 goals compared to Aston Villa 17. So United have conceded 26 versus
so
Aston Villa, who have conceded 17. And scoring wise, they have scored 30. Aston Villa has scored 25. So just to give you a context with that. But in terms of the point standing, Aston Villa sits in third and 33 points. United sits in sixth on 26 points. So in terms of the analytics, that just goes to give you an idea that defensively, that is where Manchester United is faltering. If they had a better defense, then chances are they would have picked up more points and be higher in the table compared to an Aston Villa who does have a better defense, scoring less, but sits higher than them. So it just goes to show that defense plays a very key role in the EPL these days, Christoph.
right.
So you're saying Aston Villa to win this one?
I think Aston Villa will win this one. Potentially 2-0, but I feel like United might find a goal. So it's at either 2-1 or 2-0. I'll go with 2-0 though.
But my question for you though, Christoph, Aston Villa had a somewhat shaky start. I would say maybe in the first 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, definitely.
What has Emery done? What are you seeing from this Aston Villa team which has propelled them up the table? What has been
So,
Emery's secrets of success? What's the
so
secret sauce? I
what
mean,
what
Ole Watkins isn't even scoring.
what happened is that Aston Villa started the season, I guess because of how good they were last 2 seasons, a lot of teams have been employing low blocks against them. So what Emery has done is instead of trying to work the ball into the box or get crosses into the box, Emery has told his players, shoot, just shoot. If it
So
rebounds
there's a large percentage of goals being scored from long range for this Aston Villa
from
team then,
from
Christoph.
from low quality chances that are going in. So even you shoot, the keeper fumbles, a player gets a rebound, score, or you score. So they're getting a lot of time and space on the ball outside of the box to line up shots. All right,
Mm,
whether or not that shot scores is irrelevant because then it generates a secondary chance. So either you score or you get a secondary chance to then try and score again, which is probably a higher percentage. So that is how Aston Villa has kind of turned their fortunes around. Teams sit back in that low block, they say, okay, no problem, we will just shoot.
I see. So Aston Villa has some snipers on their hand, the Tillemans, the Muggins, so to speak, Christoph. So in order for United to counter this, the midfield has to close down those shots then, Christoph. The
I
United midfield has to close down those shots.
Right, don't necessarily play in a low block like that, right? If you're playing the low block, they're just going to shoot. Right?
I see, I
We've
see.
seen where I mean the defense is not that great. They've been shipping goals, like we said. So you have to know outplay Aston Villa.
So can United take anything away from that defeat that Arsenal picked up versus Aston Villa, Christoph? What would United have seen in that game which they could implement in this upcoming fixture that may yield them a better result than how Arsenal fared?
Um, so one thing I've noticed is that Aston Villa tends to start second halves very slow, especially if they're leading from the first half.
Right.
They tend to start the second half really, really slow. They sit off, they allow teams to attack them. So my my thing is that in that 15 minutes in the halftime, if you're not already up, you apply a lot of pressure in that 15 minutes. You must get a goal in that 15 minutes after
After
halftime,
halftime.
right?
I
They
see.
they start the second half really slow.
So you're pretty much not giving United any chance in this one then,
No,
Christoph.
United have a chance. United have a chance. We've seen that they can score goals, right? We just don't know if they can keep a clean sheet at the moment. They
I
can
see, I
score
see.
goals. Like I said, they seem to have solved the attacking problems. They
Right.
are scoring a lot of goals. They're just not keeping that clean sheet.
Got you. So for me, I'm also leaning towards an Aston Villa win, but I'm definitely expecting both teams to score. So for me, I'm gonna go with a 3-2 win for Aston Villa, Christoph. I expect this one to be another fiery affair, a shootout almost. But I'm gonna side with Aston Villa. They have been the hot team, the farm team. The EPL is now taking notice of them. I am not sure if that will play into the game where teams are now seeing them. Oh, wow, this team is playing good football. Let's try to counter what they're doing. I'm not sure if that will factor in, but I expect both teams to score. But I am siding also with Aston Villa at home to get a victory in this one as well. Again, the home factor plays into my thinking. The festive period and the home factor are the two advantages I would give to Aston Villa along with their farm. So I expect them to go out and get another 3 points. But we move, Christoph, we move, and we move on to a number of other interesting games just to get your quick fire predictive results on these. So the next game we have on the agenda is Bournemouth versus Burnley. Bournemouth at home versus Burnley. What says you?
Bournemouth is a game Bournemouth should be winning easily. Burnley has lost all of their last five, kind of similar to Wolves. Their farm is very poor, horrendous play. So it should be an easy win for Bournemouth, 2-0.
2-0 to Bournemouth. Yeah, I would side with a Bournemouth win as well. Bournemouth hasn't been keeping a lot of clean sheets, so I expect Burnley to get on the score sheet. So for me, while I expect Bournemouth to win with superior form, better players playing at home, 2-1, I still expect Burnley to get on the score sheet. So my call is Bournemouth 2-1. Then we have Brighton versus Sunderland. Brighton at home versus, I would say, the surprise team of the season thus far. I would say Sunderland. What says you in that one?
Um, I, it feels strongly of a draw to me. Sunderland, somewhat surprisingly, I think they lost their last game, right?
Did they? I am
Who
not
who,
sure.
who
I
was
have to
their
check on that.
Sunderland?
Let's see. Let's check
No, they
out what.
won. They won. They won.
I think they won 1-0 if memory serves me correctly. Let me check.
Newcastle. It was
Yeah,
Newcastle. It was
right. They
Newcastle.
won 1-0 over Newcastle at
Newcastle.
home.
Okay.
Yeah,
They lost the game before that to Man City. I think 3-0.
right. They lost 3-0, right?
Okay.
Before that, yeah. But they won their
Um,
last game to Newcastle 1-0. But to factor in, Christoph, a lot of the Sunderland players are now after the African Cup of Nations. So, so a number of changes will be ringing in the Sunderland team. In fact, of all the teams in the EPL, I think Sunderland may be the team which is most affected by the departures of their players to the African Cup of Nations. So that is definitely something to factor into the equation. So there will be a number of changes to the Sunderland team to face this Brighton team in this one. So that is definitely something to factor in.
I would.
I can,
I
yeah,
feel like I would lean towards Brighton in that case. Not sure
mm,
how the changes will really affect Sunderland at the moment
yeah,
until we
yeah. We
see
have
it.
to wait and see that for sure.
But I will. I think I lean towards. I will lean towards Brighton for this one. I think Brighton to win 3-1.
Well, I'm gonna take your initial call. I'm gonna give Sunderland the benefit of the doubt and predict that the culture of winning, the style of play, it will just be a case where players come in and fit into the system, Christoph. So while the players may be different, I think the approach, the tactics, and just the general attitude towards the game will be the same. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with a draw, but I'm gonna go with a scoring draw. So I'm gonna go 1-1 for this game. Then we have Man City versus West Ham, Christoph. Man City at home versus West Ham.
They should be sweeping away West Ham. West Ham in poor form as well.
I'm gonna
Uh,
go 3-0 for this one.
3-0. Yeah, 3-0.
3-0. So we are in agreement with that one. We also then have Wolves versus Brentford. Wolves versus Brentford. Last I was reading up on this game, Christoph. Henderson, their midfield anchor, suffering from a knock. Also, their top scorer, Igor Thiago, also suffering from a knock. So those two players are somewhat possibly doubtful. Possibly. I don't really trust these EPL managers, Christoph, when it comes to reporting injuries. Oftentimes, they make the injury seems more than it is. And then you see the players playing the full 90 minutes on the weekend. So for me, I will not trust these managers. I think these two players will still play some part in this game, if not the full 90. I'm not trusting them. I am definitely not trusting them. So with that being said, I'm gonna go with a Brentford win. Brentford to win 2 goals to nil.
Yeah, I think Brentford should win. Um, it's hard to give Wolves anything. I don't think Wolves has won any games all
No
season.
games all season, right?
I think they've drawn two, right?
Correct.
Right. So,
Until they win a game, Christopher, I'll be calling against Wolves
right.
because
Well,
chances are you're gonna be more right than wrong.
uh, the way Wolves are playing, I can't see them even winning a game this season, to be honest.
Wow, that's a bold call right there.
It would not surprise me if Wolves did not win a game this season.
I see,
The
I
the way
see.
they're going, probably January we might even see a new manager again, to be honest.
Possibly.
I will go with Brentford to win 3-0.
3-0 is the call there. All right, so then we have Everton versus league leaders, Arsenal, Christoph. Everton at home. versus Arsenal. What says you?
I feel like this could be a tough game for Arsenal in the sense that, to me at least, you'll say people will say, oh, they've been getting the results and this and that, but to me, the quality of the play has been poor for the last 3 or 4 games. So unless they pick themselves up this game, I think this could potentially be a draw or a loss for them. Potentially.
Wow.
I go with Arsenal to win. I go with them picking themselves up in this game. But if they do not, this game is potentially a loss for them. If they
Yeah, this
play
could definitely be a banana peel game.
if they play like they played against Wolves or Aston Villa or even Club Brugge, in my opinion, despite winning that game, I think they lose this game. Last season, Everton was a difficult game for them. I believe they lost one of the games to Everton last season and they won one.
Right.
So there is the potential for this to be, like you say, a banana peel game.
Yeah, yeah, it should be a tough game. It should be a tough game. From a footballing instinct point of view, Christoph, I am gonna go with that call, which you have been warning against, but not necessarily making the call for, which is a draw. I think Everton will offer more defensively than a Wolves and should offer more going forward also than a Wolves. And they're playing at home. And you're saying, even though Arsenal are getting the points, they're not necessarily showing the performance. So, with all of that considered, I think this one may very well end in a draw. So, for me, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw in this one, Christoph. 1-1 draw is the call for me. But what's your predicted scoreline?
I'm going to go with Arsenal to win 1-0.
1-0 to the Arsenal. All right, then we have Leeds versus Crystal Palace. Leeds at home versus Crystal Palace, who drew in their Europa Conference League today, Christoph. They drew that one 2-2, but a number of their first team players were fully rested. So it should be a fresh starting 11 come match day for
I mean,
Leeds. I mean
I
for Crystal Palace.
that's fifth place versus what? 70, 18 place, not 18, 16. So
Right.
I think I go with Crystal Palace. They had not a blip, but they lost to Man City on the weekend. But I think, that's just them playing Man City. So I
Right.
think
Plus, the only strange thing about this game, I would say, Christoph, is that this game is being played late Saturday when usually teams which participate in the Europa Conference League or the Europa League usually play their games on a Sunday. So it's less time for recovery. That's the only thing I would say. It's late Saturday. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff, a 3 p.m. Eastern time kickoff for this one. But under normal circumstances, this game would have been played on a Sunday. So teams that play in Europe on Thursday tend to play their EPL matches on a Sunday. But on this occasion, for whatever reason, that fixture is on for a late Saturday. So that is the only concern I would have re this Crystal Palace team. But as I said, having seen the starting 11 in that Europa Conference League, a number of their first choice players were fully rested. It was a completely changed Crystal Palace team. Even though those players did make a couple substitute appearances, they did not play the full 90. So they should still be fresh for this game. But that would be my only concern. But with all of that said, I am still going to back Crystal Palace to get a result in this one.
I think Crystal Palace to win 3-0.
Crystal Palace to win 3-0. I think this will be a tighter game, so I'm going to lean towards a Crystal Palace 1-0 win, Christoph. Crystal Palace to win 1-0 over Leeds. And then the final game on the agenda comes to us on Monday, Christoph, and this one is Fulham versus Forest. Fulham at home versus Forest. What says you?
Um, that's another game that kind of have the potential to go anywhere. Fulham is not that far off, or Nottingham Forest, despite a poor start to the season, is not that far off of Fulham, and Fulham's form has been very spotty.
14
Um,
versus 16th.
right, it's very spotty for both teams. You could say are
2
very
points
spotty.
separating them. Fulham is on 20 points, Forest on 18.
Okay. I would say I would go with a draw for this one. Both teams have conceded more than they have scored and are negative in the goal difference. It's hard to see both of them not conceding in this match.
Wow, interesting call there for sure. Yeah, as I said, this is a tight game. This is definitely a tight game. I think if you hand both managers a draw at the start of this game, both of them would accept it. But that being said, I have to make a call, and I am
Draw
gonna
is a
have
call.
draw is a call, no doubt,
Draw
no
is a
doubt.
call.
Draw is definitely a call, and this is a possible draw. But that man, Harry Wilson, Christoph, that man is probably the man who is in the best form in the EPL at the moment. So I am going to have to side with farm. But again, with the African Cup of Nations, a number of first team players are missing from both teams. So Iwobi comes to mind from Fulham. He has been a linchpin in that Fulham team. Iwobi, former Arsenal man. And then also over there in the Wolves team, a number of players. Endai is also out. And a
Not
couple of other,
Wolves. Nottingham
sorry,
Forest.
Nottingham Forest, right? So both teams are affected by departures. But I'm going to side with Fulham. I think Fulham may just have enough to get a win. I'm going to go 2-1 to Fulham over Forest. So 2-1 is my call in that one, Christoph. But interesting times ahead. But Christoph, that's all the time we have. We are quickly out of time. Viewers, subscribers, continue to support us by sharing, liking. Tell us what is your prediction. Leave us in the comment section. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.